And now that tension arm's secured, I can take these blocks off the camshafts and put these oil rails back on. They tighten to 7 foot-pounds. These cams jump both when you're installing or taking the chain loose and when you take the blocks back out of it. That was jumped. That's not a problem, I guess. It doesn't seem to bother me. I put a little silicone grease on this solenoid. If it's rusted up very bad, sandpapered off with some 340 or 400 grit. Make it smooth and slide your new seal on there. Tighten those bolts down to 10 Newton meters. I've got the oil rails on. If you put any marks on it, wipe them off. I washed them off anyway because they had particles stuck on them from setting out for the last few days. Went ahead and put the spark plugs in there. Put back in it and cleaned most of the oil residue out of the chamber. I'm going to clean these notches up on the head back here. On the lower edge, degrease it with some brake cleaner and a rag, hopefully without lint on it. Got the deck cleaned off and the little humps in the back. In the center. Went ahead and poured some fresh oil on the chains and the tensioner or plunger, and just a little dab on all the cam lobes to help transition any particles that may be stuck on the lifters. I'm going to try and fish a valve pan cover down in around these studs and that brake lines and not knock the gasket off of it. I'm going to be placing a bead of silicone at these case and head intersections on both sides, and at all corners, all four corners on those reliefs cut out of the head for the cam boring process. All four corners. Just make sure you don't drag that across the cam bearings, getting it in there and get it all over it. Now to fish it down in there. I used a mirror to verify that those rubber half plugs were in the head. The rubber hose is in the way, you have to go at a fender to see the other one. Verified. Throw the screws to it, or the cap nuts and studs, I guess. 10 Newton meters. What's the deal with the paint on these things anyway? Looks good. And throw the coils down in there, one or two, I guess. Went ahead and degreased the oil out of the end of the plug boot. And I'm applying dielectric grease. It's a petroleum jelly looking silicone non-conductive grease. That'll help keep the boot from sticking to the plug and resist oil intrusion if it happens to get in there again. Clean the surfaces off on the driver's side. Check for lint, fuzz, pieces of rag or paper towel or whatever you're using to clean the surfaces off. I got all that gook off the back of the head. And put this oil rail down now that I've used that stud to pry this cover down. I'll tell you, one of these oil rails had metal filings on them, so I have to watch for that if your chain went bad. Both the lids are on now. I'm going to start putting some of the junk back on the front, like slipping this alternator in there, tightening this hub down, and installing a water pump and thermostat housing into these pipes and back on the housing. Clean any debris. I think this is like a big sediment trap in this thing anyway. Off your alternator. Pick the old O-ring out of it. And I've got a new O-ring for it. With any luck. Alternator's got some substantial weight to it, so be ready for it. Now degrease that, spray your track out for any extra rubber or debris. Install a new O-ring with some antifreeze or some Seal Glide grease, silicone grease. And install the 6 or so bolts in it. With the mark you put on it before, or at least this battery lug facing straight up, off to the right up. I've got my jig on there. The 2x4 is going to support the end length of it. Got spacers underneath them bars to keep that center raised up hub from getting damaged. First thing I need to do is tighten this crank bolt down to 100 Newton meters. It really doesn't take very much force to get it there either. Now I've got to turn it to either 260 degrees plus a 30 or just a continuous 150 degrees. So what I'm going to do is mark 150 degrees off on a sprocket. Of course 180 degrees is 1/2 of a turn. So I just need to back it up 30 degrees from a half a turn. Although this thing measures degrees. Mark on the head of the bolt to the housing plus about 2/3 of the way of a half turn. And that's my starting mark. This deal here is precision, so we'll see, won't we? That's where it ended up, just short of my mark. That's a 90 plus 60 degrees. I'm going to mount the water pump on there and torque it down to 10 Newton meters. Clean the surfaces off and Put some silicone grease on them pipes again. This is a position of the long bolts. Be sure you got new O-rings installed in these water pipes. That's a new thermostat housing with an O-ring installed. I had to transfer the old coolant sensor into it. A little bit of a balancing act, holding the pipes up and guiding them in without damaging the seals, and keeping the bolts orientated. But it's in there. There's the two upper cover bolt and the lower upper cover bolt. The water pump's blocking them. The water outlet is part of the water pump. These T45 Torx bolts on the crank sprocket, torque to 22 Newton meters. I've cleaned these intake ports up on the head. I'll pull the paper towels out of it. You could have covered them with masking tape if it's clean. This has a lot of sand and debris in it, and I figured it caused more harm than good trying to remove the sand from around them. So I just used paper towels in the ports. Masking tape would attract the sand, and when you pulled it up, it would probably drop the sand down on the ports. At least this way, if it falls in the ports, I can see it on the shop towels and get it off of there. Pull it up with a shop towel. This is a PCV valve, or a wheel separator, I believe they're calling it. A spring-loaded pipe goes onto this nipple, and some of them use this vacuum line. This one's plugged off. These rings, you just kind of take a screwdriver and walk them off of there. And then the brake booster elbow goes into that. And this is what fails on these. Now, I say this one's bad. There's oil all over the bottom of it. And it caused all kinds of mysterious problems with the engine running. The injectors always seem clean in it. In these. This is a new one here. There's a tube inside it this hooks onto. Well, these can be changed while the intake's still in the car by reaching down the back with a T30 Torx bit and breaking these loose. Now, they were really stuck on there first time around. I think one of these down here is hardest to get to because of this pipe and hose back here. But it can be done. This is a spring-loaded pipe that nipple goes on. Here. But you could use a Torx bit with a hex back on it and a gear wrench. Tape to it and reach down the back. Just shorten this distance up by using a short bit and a gear wrench. 1/4 inch job. I'm going to pull these seals out and blow any debris off the intake. I had to break all these loose with a ratchet. They were really stuck on there. And transfer this nipple to the other one. That looks like about the only thing I had to transfer. Got a new gasket for it too. Now, sometimes this throttle body gasket goes bad, and it should be changed as well if you've got it. Okay, all the screws are out of it. Now, something we'll do, well, I think the thing fell apart. Looks like this rubber seal stayed in that part there. Pick that out of there. This one has the elbow on it. I pulled the elbow out of this one when I took the intake out of it. Good, that business is completed. Put some seal glide on if you popped your elbow out. Line that with seal glide and this O-ring here. Now, man, these things are rock hard. They're really in there. Heh. That's nice. Let's have metal in them or something. Yeah, I'll take all 4 of them out. Right, the ports have been cleaned and checked. For debris. Any particles just blew out with the air hose. Make sure your knock sensor wires are laying out to the front so that they can wrap around the front of the intake and plug into the center of these junction boxes. Be sure all your torque limiting spacers are installed. Install your intake nuts. Torque to 22 Newton meters. I just went in from the center to an X pattern out. I don't think it's super critical with seals as big as that. I'm going to go ahead and hook the brake booster and the vacuum line up to the PCV valve vent in the back. And the fuel line. And then you got to compress that spring-loaded pipe and get it up on that nipple. And then put the clip back on it if it has one. Not that it really needs it. And there's the knock sensor wires. That's nice, what that is. Clean your throttle body while you're in here. It's grungy. Snap your junction boxes down onto the fuel injectors and start plugging your coils in and hooking the grounds up with the other ground down in there. And then start routing your knock sensor wiring up through there and the rest of the wiring and cam sensors in a general position. But not attach anything yet. Still got to put the oil dipstick back in it.